Peace, party people. Welcome back to Where My Killer Tape At. This is your host, DanTresOmi, episode 51. I know everybody's tired about hearing us talk about voting, but we're going to talk about voting and why you shouldn't blame non-voters. We also had somebody ask for advice about whether or not they should talk about politics and religion when they go to meet their folks during Thanksgiving dinner. We bring back our segments, how to approach women and health. I also geek out a little bit. We talk about T. Franklin, Bingo Love, and Jook joint. And I also do some geeky predictions. And we talk about why Midnight Marauders is better than Low End Theory. Word is born. Check it out.
Rock, steady, rock, steady, rock, steady, 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 steady.
Gangsta, 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 gangsta.
As for you profess it, make sure the science is applied. But that who, what, where, when. Sometimes
I pull up, hop out, air out, made it look sexy. They won't take me out my element. Nah, take me out my element.
While recording today's episode, number 51, I've been sipping on Bacardi, the dark rum. And I usually, for my Friday night drink, I usually mix it with ginger beer. Reed's ginger beer, the best ginger beer out there. I will fight anybody in the street with it for that. And it's just, I love it. I love the taste. It got a lot of kick to it. And actually, Reed's is the only one that's actually natural ginger beer. All the other stuff is actually like soda with artificial ginger flavoring. Yes, even that one that costs mad money. You know who I'm talking about. Word.
It's all a game. It's all a game.
It's crazy, right? The elections just passed, and people are probably tired of people talking about them. I try to give it a couple of days, and then I talk about the results. I know right now in Georgia they're having a standoff for the governor's race, which I think is exciting to watch. I just want to say something real quick that is real easy for us to blame non-voters. And I know that usually during midterm elections, we have like astronomically low turnout rates when it comes to voting. And it's been the case for a while. That's something that I've always seen. It's something I've always noticed. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we all overplay presidential elections, and then we like ignore the midterm elections. Presidential elections are sexy. They're, the debates are, I don't think they're exciting. They're boring as fuck. But for a lot of people, the presidential debates are exciting, and it's like watching the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what it is. I think when it comes to legislation, when it comes to policy, there's a lot of just parts that are boring. And look, I'm not the type of person that says, oh, we should, make it, jazz it up and do whatever it takes to make it exciting. It's not exciting, and I'm okay with that, because policy is going to be boring. Those discussions are going to be boring. It's needed, right? And I'm not trying to downplay it. That policy making, all that stuff is super duper important, and we have to really pay attention to it, and especially during the midterm elections, because the voter turnout is just ridiculous. Now, we're going to argue. We're going to say, hey, yeah, this midterm election, people really turned it up. People really, celebrities came out, yay, right? All of that stuff. But let's not. I don't think we should place the blame on non-voters, and here's why. I think the idea that a lot of people are going to stay home for whatever reason, especially during the midterm elections, is a given variable. I think that's something that we should take into account when we start doing the numbers, right? That's just, if we can't get them off the couch, 2 years ago, they're not going to come off the couch today. We could think of new ways. I think that if we change voting, because we vote on Tuesdays, right? I think if you make it to like a Saturday or make it like a federal and state holiday so everybody has time off so they can vote. That might help. I think that'll definitely help, but I think the numbers will still be lower than during the presidential election. And here's why I say that is because during the presidential elections, the numbers are up. So it might help a little, but I don't think it'll be enough to really like see a huge change, right? That being said, we should stop blaming non-voters. We should start blaming voters, right? People who vote the same motherfuckers in office who ain't doing shit or who are harmful to everyone, right? What we've learned is that oftentimes people don't vote in their best interest. And I think what we need to start doing is we need to start figuring out ways to convince people to vote in their best interest. I think the best example I can give you in that is during Obama's first run, he won a lot of voters that usually don't vote Democratic. And that's a good example would be union, particularly white union workers. You had people who had to convince them to vote for Obama. I know here in Ohio, we had people that, farmers, corn farmers, and they were convinced to vote for Obama. And that's how he won the state of Ohio. I don't give a fuck what nobody says. The state of Ohio is red, right? So I think that's how we should approach it. It wasn't like strong arming. It was just a little bit more assertive than usual when it comes to convincing people to change their minds. Because what's happening is, white folks are a good example. They vote against their own interests for white supremacy. And because we know that white supremacy, we know that racism is expensive, but that's another topic for another day. So we should really stop blaming non-voters. It was Karl von Clausewitz who wrote a wonderful book called On War, who said that politics is war without bloodshed. And I know I'm sounding really smart right now, don't I? I sound intellectual, right? I'm using my degree, party people. I'm using my degree. Anyway, the reason I want to bring this up is because I always saw that politics was something that was really dirty and grimy. And there's another saying that says, if Americans knew how politics and sausages were made, they would not be able to sleep at night. And I think that is true indeed, right? And I remember being young, and I remember I was 16 and I was working for the Democratic Party when I was living in the Bronx, and we were literally out in the street fighting. That's what we did. We were literally out in the street fighting people in our communities for a particular individual who will not be named and is currently in prison for corruption. Anyway, that being said, I think a wonderful, wonderul documentary you should all check out. It's been around for a while. You can probably find it on YouTube. And it's called Street Fight. And it focuses around the mayoral race for the city of Newark, New Jersey, between Cory Booker. I know he sounds familiar, doesn't he? And the long-term mayor, Sharp James. And man, it gets real dirty. And I think that's something you should watch because it shows you how politics can be dirty. Yeah, it's boring. The policy stuff is boring. But on a local level, it can get downright dangerous, right? So I think everybody should check that out. And you would definitely enjoy it, and you'll learn a lot about Cory. Actually, you learn a lot about Cory Booker, and you actually end up really, really feeling dude. So definitely, and look, I'm not a Democrat by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not a Republican either. But just definitely check that out. Word. I want to do a quick comic book review. Two comic books, actually. Well, one is a trade. It was a set of comic books, but they're both written by T. Franklin, and T is spelled T-E-E. And the first one I want to talk about is Juke Joint, which as soon as I got it, I read it immediately. And that's by Image Comics. And the artist is Alita Martinez, who I talked about in my best 5 comics of 2017, because she was the penciler on some of the stories for World of Wakanda, which was written by Roxane Gay. If you don't have that, please cop that. It's in trade format now. So anyway, Juke Joint issue number 1 came out last month. Issue number 2 will be out in December. It's by Image Comics, and it takes place in 1950s New Orleans. And the main character, Mahalia, she runs a brothel. I wouldn't say it's a brothel. Well, yeah, it's a brothel. Well, because the reason being is because there's scenes of men having sex with other men, and it's pretty much a place for men to have all the sexual pleasures that they want. Of course, Mahalia is a sorceress, and she protects women who are victims of domestic violence and rape and abuse and all of that, and she uses her brothel as a refuge for them. It's a really dope story. It's real bloody and gory. I just realized that there's a bunch of variant covers for it. I only have one, so I'm going to try to look for the other ones. But it's rated mature. I highly enjoy it. It's really dope. I'm a big fan of non-hero comic books. I've been and it's funny because I didn't get into them until about maybe 10 years ago with Ed Brubaker. But I like them more than the regular superhero comic stuff. And it's not because it's rooted in reality, but it's just that it deals with a lot of things that we come to face every day. So highly recommended. And it's actually a digital version as well that you get on imagecomics.com. The other one I want to talk about that's written by T. Franklin is Bingo Love. And it's funny because I got the trade for it. And it's really it's amazing. I got the trade. What I wanted to say was I got the trade, and then I did not read it until after I got Jook joined, and I read it, and I was like, why does T. Franklin look familiar? Because I'm not familiar with her at all. And I read it and I devoured it. And let me just say this: the story is beautiful. The story is very, very beautiful. It's a non-superhero comic, and it's just amazingly beautiful. I cried. And it takes place in the 50s, and then it goes on until the present time. And it's about two women who are in love with each other. They meet in high school, and then they fall in love, and then their families find out, and they separate both of them. Hazel Johnson and Mary McCrae. They met. Actually, it takes place in 1963. My fault. And then they ended up living their lives, getting married, having children. I know that Hazel is she's like a housewife, and Mary becomes this businesswoman, and then they reunite later on after they had their kids, and their kids are having kids as well, so they're like grandmas, and they fall in love again. They divorce their husbands, and then it's really dope. It's a simple story, but it's tremendously beautiful. The illustrations are just amazing. Again, I highly recommend it. And they released it as a Image. It was done by Image, of course. The artist is Jen St. Ange. I'm not familiar with that person at all. I know they did Gem and the Misfits, so I'm not familiar with them at all. But I like that it ends in the future. It's really dope. I know some people may not be cool with it. I think it's amazing. I love it. And so I'm now a fan of T. Franklin. Anything that she does, I will pick up. And she followed me on Twitter, so that was dope. That was really dope. She hit me up. But highly recommend both of those if you haven't. Jook Joint is something I'm going to follow. And I know a lot of times Image does these 6-issue series, and some of them take off and some of them don't. They put out a lot of them. So word is born. Check it out.
Yeah. Yo, I think Prince should run first on this one. I think so. Yeah. Yo, I think Prince should run first on this one.
Yo, shout out to my physical brother, DJ Diz Dolo in New York. Yo, what up? He always asks me the dope IG questions, and I wanted to address this one IG question he had for my IG stories. And he asked me which one is better, Midnight Marauders or Low End Theory. Now, I'm a huge Tribe fan. Rest in peace, Five Didog. Word is born. Probably top 5 hip hop groups ever of all time. And I probably gotta sit down and write down those because in the top 5, because there's like a couple that I'm always battling with. But I'm gonna go ahead and say Tribe is number 2 in that list. And you wouldn't have Pharrell, you wouldn't have Kanye, you wouldn't have I can go on and on about who you wouldn't have. You wouldn't have Souls of Mischief from the West Coast. You wouldn't have really, honestly, like Kendrick, really, we could debate. You wouldn't have him if it wasn't for Tribe. You wouldn't have Jay Dilla, and that influence goes on and on. Anyway, that being said, Midnight Marauders is my favorite Tribe joint, and I love Low End Theory. I love People's Instinctive Travels. I love the last one they did before Phife Dawg passed away, and I'm a big fan. Anyway, I could talk about all day about how I'm a big fan, but Low End Theory is where you see, because if you listen to the first album, People's Instinctive, you will see that Phife, when it, Tip was the front man in that album. Phife lyrics wasn't up to par, but then in Low End Theory, he stepped his game up tremendously, exponentially. But I believe that Midnight Marauders is the album where they were both at their pinnacle. Tip and Phife, they were at their pinnacle. The production was better, even though the production on all the albums, those first 3 albums, were amazing. But this one was like mature. It was perfect. It really stood out, even though Tribe always stood out. And I think everything they put out, all the singles they put out on that joint were hits. They were on point. They really set a standard for Tribe. So much so with the album after that. What was it called? It was called The Love Movie? No, not The Love Movie. The one before that, Beats, Rhymes, and Life, was like, bleh, for several reasons. A lot of it was because of the tension, and also Phife had lost a lot of his records in a flood, I believe. So he lost a lot of the stuff he was going to sample with it at the time. That being said, Midnight Marauders is my shit. I mean, I could play Low End Theory and Midnight Marauders at all times, but if I had a choice between the two, Midnight Marauders would be my first one. Again, we could debate it, but I really think so. And I know a lot of times people always say Low End Theory, Low End Theory. I always say Midnight Marauders, Midnight Marauders. Oh man, this is such a dope album. Woo! And I actually use, when I taught middle school, I used Suck a Nigga in one of my lesson plans. I used the lyrics for that. When we talked about the N-word and the history of it. So, shout out to my old students from middle school. So yeah, but that's Midnight Marauders all day, baby. I wanted to make some geeky predictions, and I don't know if I should make this like a continuation of a segment on where my killer tape at. But people always, I try to stay away from, like, I hate to use the word theories, right? Fan theories of what's gonna happen in Avengers number 4. Like, what do you think is gonna happen? And there's like mad videos. And when I mean like mad, I mean like, I'm gonna say tens of thousands of videos of what people think is gonna happen in Avengers 4. And I think it's cool. It's cool to have a discussion. But a lot of times I realize that everyone's wrong. And it's funny because every Marvel Cinematic Universe movie that's come out, and Star Wars too, we've had people, not me, because I usually stay out of it. We've had, and I'm gonna change that today, right? Everybody was wrong. Everybody has these wild out ideas. A good example in Star Wars, what was the name of that Sith Lord? That one Sith Lord. Everybody was like, oh, he's this. He's this guy from this movie. Somebody even said he was like Jar Jar Binks or something like that. And what ends up happening in the 8th installment of the Star Wars trilogy, he gets killed, right? Snoke, right? There you go, Snoke, right? He gets killed. Like, he gets killed by Kylo Ren. Nobody predicted that, right? No one saw that coming, right? So I try to stay out of it. And I'm gonna say this right now. When it comes to Avengers 4, the Russo brothers are trolls. And y'all don't know that they're trolls. They keep trolling people. Like, when y'all go get it, like, they do that all the time. So there's some like clips of, Steve Rogers in his original Captain America outfit from Avengers number 1, and Tony Stark in his Iron Man. I forgot what Mark that was, Mark 7 or something like that from Avengers 1. And they saying, oh, it's gonna be some time traveling involved, right? Some time traveling. Even though in Infinity War, Doctor Strange said that there's only one possibility that they can beat Thanos, right? And he had to give him the stone because that's kind of like what led to that. So I don't know why y'all keep thinking there's gonna be time travel. I believe And I could be dead wrong. The only thing I can say is that in Avengers 4, this is one of my geek predictions, that is going to take place in the future. And here's why. And it's funny because everybody thinks that everybody's going to go, let's go, we're going to find them. Number one, nobody knows where Thanos went to, right? They show him where he was at, but we don't know where that's at. We know it's not Titan, right? So he did say after he did what he was going to do, he was going to go watch the sunrise or the sunset or something like that, right? And then he left. So nobody knows where he went to. Matter of fact, when he snapped his finger and he disappeared, everybody was like, yo, what he do? What he do? Everybody's like, what's going on? What's going on? Right? So that's number one. Number two, just think about it for 1 second, right? Think about it. 50% of the world's population, and we're not even talking about the universe yet, the world's population disappeared like that in the snap of a finger, right? What do you think is going to happen? Think about that for a second. Think about that. You're on a bus, on the way from work, and half the people on the bus, maybe the bus driver, blinks away, right? And let's say the bus driver is still there, though. On that street that you're turning on, half the drivers disappear. All kinds of accidents, right? Half the pilots in the world that are flying, right? The ones that are flying, they're going to disappear. Or the co-pilot is, right? What do you think is going to happen, right? Some of the things are going to fall out the sky, right? Well, I mean, because the co-pilot will be able to take care of it in some cases, but in other cases, the co-pilot is going to be gone too. What about the single pilot planes, right? So trains, there's not going to be anybody operating them. Construction equipment, just all kinds of stuff that's going to happen. That you need a human to operate it. And there's going to be a lot of disasters. People are going to be missing. There's going to be fires. Half the firemen, half the emergency personnel are gone. Hospitals are going to be overwhelmed. It's going to be a disaster of epic proportions. And I think that the Avengers and all other superheroes involved are going to be in the middle of trying to, first of all, fix all that stuff. Just get everything back to normal, and then figure out what they're going to do from there. That's going to take a couple years. So I believe Avengers Part 4 is going to take place in the future. So, and that's why, because they have to regroup, figure out what they're going to do. And then finally, they got to find out where Thanos went. Because everybody's going to be busy fixing everything. They're not really going to have time to say, hey, let's figure out what Thanos is, right? Because everywhere you go, everything is going to be in disarray. So I think that that's going to be what's going to happen. It'll take place in the future, and there's going to be a lot of flashbacks. And again, I think the Russo brothers are trolling. Another geeky prediction that I have is that, and I only will be able to confirm this until Captain Marvel comes out, the next big Avengers crossover event, if the Guardians are still around, is going to be the Secret Invasion with the Skrulls. I think that's probably the best idea, because they'll be able to take advantage of all the chaos and the turmoil. And I think Captain Marvel is going to set that up. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Geeky Predictions by your man, DanTresOmi. Word.
Lord of mercy, all night and days and crew. Follow me now, mercy, all night and days and crew. Follow me now, mercy, all night and days and crew. Follow me now, mercy, all night and days and crew. Follow me now.
So the other day, someone, they learned that I was an atheist, so they asked me, they said, hey, you believe in karma? And I was like, nah, I don't believe in karma. And they was like, really? And I was like, yeah. And I talked about this on the show before, that, a lot of people think that when we say atheist, we think that we just don't believe in God. But I know a lot of people assume that if I don't believe in God, then that I believe in Satan, or I believe in some wild shit, or I believe in like witchcraft or something that they see as like evil. You know what I mean? And that's actually not the case. An atheist, the definition I use is not having a belief in the supernatural. So whether it's God or the devil or angels or spirits or leprechauns, and I've run into atheists who believe in karma. I've run into that. So my definition is probably subjective. That being said, I don't believe in karma. I think that it's something. Here's why. It's very, very subjective. Like karma is like used by people subjectively, like all religions, right? All concepts that in religion are used But I know that in the Hindu tradition, I know Hindus believe in it, Buddhists believe in it, because Buddha was Hindu. So he brought a lot of those beliefs into the system that was created after he passed away. And so reincarnation is in there. And so anyway, and again, karma, right? Because karma is part of all of that, right? But I know that karma was used to oppress a lot of people in India, particularly with the caste system, right? That if you're poor, it's probably because you did something bad in your previous life. So that's why you are a Dalit or an untouchable. So, so I know a lot of stuff that, particularly in the Western world, when we take a lot of concepts that come from the East, we really bastardize them. We really take our beliefs and our baggage and throw them in there, right? So, and I know like we'll take concepts from the Bible, which, we'll say stuff that and then we try to say that they're karmic in it, you know what I'm saying? And they're not. They're actually incorrect because first of all, all religions are not the same. We like to think that they are, but they're not the same. They believe in supernatural beings, but they're not the same. The concepts of Buddhism and Hinduism are different than, say, Christianity. So a lot of times we like to assume that they're the same. So we take these concepts from different religions and try to mesh them in with ours. And again, it becomes subjective, right? So who gets karmic justice and who doesn't is arbitrary, right? And we all know that there are a lot of examples of people who do a lot of wild shit in their life and they never suffer for it. The victims never get justice, right? There are some people who survived, the fall of Nazi Germany and lived on to be very old. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of unsolved murder cases, right? There are a lot of people who were abused who never seen justice, right? And their abusers lived on and lived pretty good lives. I mean, people will say, well, what happened to Cosby is karmic. I don't think so, because he's only went to jail for one victim. And when you look at it, most of his life, he lived a pretty good life because of his work, right? So I don't think that's karmic justice at all. I don't think that's karma at all. What I would like to see is justice, and there's a big difference, right, to both of those things. And there are people that have gone to the grave, and they weren't tortured, they didn't have any regret, and they did some wild, crazy, repressive, and abusive shit to people, and they never saw anything bad happen to them. A lot of them were actually wealthy and rich and well-to-do. So I've never seen it. So, and I'm not, I've never seen karma people to say, oh, this is karma, this is karma. How do you know that's karma? You know what I'm saying? Like something bad happens to somebody. Like somebody will say to me, oh, I don't cheat on my boyfriend or girlfriend because I don't want that to come back to me when I'm married. But then I know people who never cheated on a significant other, get married, and then their spouse superly cheats on them. You know what I mean? So like, where the fuck does that come from? So I don't believe in it. And I think it's a ridiculous concept. Or
It's all a game. It's all a game.
finally, I got a question. It's asking for advice, and I'm gonna give you the information to do that later on. This person wants to remain anonymous, which again is real cool. I don't have a problem with it. And no, I don't know this person, because a lot of times people ask me questions and I usually know them. I don't know this person, so don't ask me anything else about this person. This person asked, given the results of the recent midterm election, I'm going home for Thanksgiving, and I'm going to see some family and extended family. And should I involve myself or bring up discussions of politics and religion? Okay. So I'm gonna explain to you what you should and should not do. But first of all, I just want to say this when it comes to politics and religion. A lot of people say that you should not talk about politics and religion. I feel that if politics is important to you and religion is important to you, then you should talk about it, especially if you're passionate about it, right? But I think at the same time, you should learn when to pick and choose your battles, when it's the appropriate time to speak about these things, when you should lay off, right? Because sometimes you might say something and you need to lay off. You need to learn how to do that, and that takes practice, right? Because it's real easy to be like, nah, you're wrong or whatever. But that takes practice, because a lot of times we end up offending people, and that wasn't our intention, even if we're right? So especially people that we care about. So yeah, I don't have an issue with it. You just, again, you gotta learn how to do it, when to do it. Now, a lot of us have family members and extended family members that have religious and political views that are antithetical to ours, right? They're completely, totally against what we say. And a lot of them believe in some wild ass shit that they should not be believing, right? Let me just say this about the holidays. And this is the thing and I don't have an issue with the holidays. I think it's dope, and then I also think it sucks, right? I think it's dope that we get a chance to, we're allowed, unfortunately, a chance to go visit folks that we haven't seen in a while, particularly people that we love and that we miss and that we used to enjoy being around when we were kids, right? So, the holidays allow us to do that. That's why we shouldn't knock that shit. We should be like, hey, we should go out there and see your family. What I have learned, however, is that for a lot of people, going to visit family is usually triggering and fucked up and negative. To those people, I say, don't go home if that's what it does. Because some of us come from abusive relationships, abusive families and shit like that. Or have family members or extended family members who are abusive and toxic and fucked up. And we shouldn't be around them, period, right? But sometimes we're around them because we want to be around my dukes and the family members we do love. And that's the thing. The thing is that we're when we were younger, we were with them all. We were kids, we were with them all the time. And as we become adults, we might not even live in the same state. So we rarely see these folks. And a lot of times we end up having discussions that we never finish, or we learn things about them that we didn't know because it's been a while since we hung out with them. And I think we should take that into account. I really, really, really do. I know Facebook has changed that because on Facebook, we link up with cousins that we haven't seen in like 20 years. And we might learn some things about them. Like I learned that one of my cousins, who I was real close to when I was younger, is now a Trump supporter. I don't fuck with him. But the thing is, I wasn't fucking with him anyway. So I don't fuck with him at all. So there you go. So it's like, but if I was to see him at Thanksgiving, how do I deal with it? And let me just say this. If you're a Trump supporter, chances are you probably won't be unconvinced by anybody to not support him. You know what I mean? Because you got to already be irrational to support him. So I'm not even going to go there with him. You know what I'm saying? So if I see him and we're together and we're drinking, I'm going to keep things surface. I'm going to keep it surface level. How about those Yankees? How about those Knicks? When you're going back to DR, like, how your family doing? Yo, I saw your dad. I saw these pictures. I keep everything surface and I won't get deep with him. That's what I would do. Now, what if he was to say, hey, Trump, blah, 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 then I would do one or two things. I would say, hey, you know what? We're having a good time. We here. I ain't seen you in a minute. Let's try to have a good time. And go from there. Or if it's like late or whatever, and it might be time for me to retire, then I'm say, hey man, I'm out, man. I'm gonna go to the next room and keep it moving. I know a lot of times, for me in particular, my experience, a lot of people in my family look to me to answer questions about politics and religion. Again, I got to learn how to choose my battles. I got to learn when I should ask the question, answer the question, or when I should just be like, hey, man, I'm chilling right here with my family. Let me get my drink on. Let me get my eat on. And I think that's what I got to learn how to do. Because let me just say this. You're not going to win the battle on Thanksgiving. You're not going to win the battle at Christmas dinner. It's not. I'm just letting you know that right now. You can have all the facts and statistics that you want. You can have all the PowerPoint presentations and the documentaries. You're not going to win at that moment. Again, for them to come to those illogical positions, they have to be irrational in the first place. So, maybe later on you might say, hey, let's talk about this some other time and let's do that. You might be able to do that, but it's not going to happen over Thanksgiving dinner. All right? I hope that helps. Oh, also, if you do want advice, just send it to my email, DanTresOmi @gmail, DanTresOmi @gmail, and then the subject put advice, and I got you. I hope that helps. For this week's health segment, and where my killer tape at, I wanted to talk about social media fasting, and I think it's a great idea. And I know I talked about this before about there are ways to fast other than not eating food. And I think it's a really good idea, right? And let me just tell you something right now. Let me just be honest with you. I love social media, so I love Instagram. I love Twitter. I'm not one of those people that blames everything on social media. I'm not one of those people that has a bad time on social media. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I mean, that sounded so crazy. there are people who go on social media and they're, people bully them and attack them and do some wild shit. I've been super lucky in that no one has like stolen pictures of me and made a different profile and used my name to troll people, and I haven't been like bullied like that. I had people come for me, but I handled it. I had to block quite a few people, but I never had nothing too brazy happen to me, on social media. So social media has been like super duper great to me. And I understand that I'm a man, so I have some privileges when it comes to that. And so I think it's been good for me. Still though, I still need to step away from it every now and then. So what I've been doing, I did it for the month of October. Every Tuesday I've done a social media fast. And then a homie, shout out to the homie Misty Creates, she was asking me to talk about, what it's done for me. Number one, it's made me realize how much I'm addicted to social media. That really, like, when something happens to me, I go on there and talk about it, especially on Twitter. And I got to learn how to slow down on that. So I've been, even when I'm not fasting, I've learned not to go on there and just talk about everything that happens to me in a given minute, right? So I'm the type of person that I go into the store. Like for example, the other day, I went into the store. I'm trying to remember which store it was. Oh, I went into TJ Maxx and no, I went into Burlington Coat Factory, and this dude followed me. This white dude followed me. You know what I mean? And he followed me for a minute. So when I realized that, what I did was I went to places I never usually go to see if he was following me, and he was following me. And I said something to him. So, and he left me alone. Usually I tweet about stuff like that. I'd be like, hey, this dude following me. Yo, what's wrong with him? And then I explain what happened. I didn't do that. And doing those Tuesday social media fasts, and I do it for 24 hours. I just don't tweet for 24 hours. From 5 in the morning, actually, literally from Monday night when I go to sleep until Wednesday morning at 5 o'clock when I do my morning routine, my exercise routine. I don't use social media at all. So I don't even lurk on there. I don't post anything. So that's taught me that I talk about everything. Another thing that has taught me is how much time I spend on there. I realize that I spend a lot of time on social media just looking through stuff, even if I'm not like commenting, because I'm a commenting motherfucker. Like I comment all the time on people's shit. Usually good stuff, usually positive, dope stuff, hearts here and there. I'll say, this is dope. Yo, I like this. You know what I mean? Can I retweet this? Can I repost this? It's usually positive. So I don't troll people. You know what I'm saying? I don't like, if I disagree with you, I don't go in your DMs and be like, hey, I think that shit is whack. I don't do that. So it's taught me that I spend a lot of time on there just not doing too much stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I'm learning how to really like, just chill. Like don't always be on there so much. So that's what it's taught me. So shout out to Missy for asking me to do that. First, I didn't want to do it because I know a lot of times people come on and they be like, yo, I fast, I do this and I do that. And they try to sound better than other people. And I don't like doing that. I just think it's a good idea. I know people that do it for like a week out of a month. I know people that do it for like 30 days. I don't think I could do it for 30 days, and shout out to y'all. But I do it once a week, and it's pretty dope. All right.
This is a man's world, but it would be nothing without. This is a man's world.
Part 3, UBC, zip line McCarthy. Heavy on this, you blink my ice ring. John Green, yeah, that's small. Part 3, UBC, zip line McCarthy.
How to approach women. I know it's been a minute since I've done this segment. I got a Anon DM. They weren't Anon, but they wanted me to say that they were Anon. So shout out to you, bruh. And they asked me, what if they see a young woman that they dig and she is with her friend. This goes back to an episode I did. I think it was episode 4 of Where My Killer Tape At, where I talked about being a conversationalist. And I talked about how there's a group of women, how you should approach that situation. So you shouldn't fear, right? If you are a great conversationalist, a decent conversationalist, and you listen to my advice from before, this would be no problem. This would be a cinch. You should approach her, both of them actually, and just talk and include the other person in the conversation. And then when you're done, when the evening is done, or however you do it, like if you're about to leave or they're about to leave, then you would ask the person that you're attracted to for their phone number or social media or whatever that is. And that's how you would do that. But the key is to be a conversationalist and be able to include everybody in that conversation. If you could do that, nobody would feel left out. And I mean, it just makes sense, right? You want everybody to be comfortable. You want, and I don't blame anybody for sticking around for their friend because they don't know who you are. So you got to look at it like that. Look at that from that perspective. Word. This is the shout outs for episode 51 of Where My Killer Tape At. Shout out number 1 to my boy Manny Infinity. My man, what up? It's been a minute, bro. We haven't hung out. I got to make my way to your city so we can do just that. My hip hop brethren, former Zulu associate. And also want to shout out to my physical brother, DJ Dis Dolo. Man, I need to link up with you. Life has got us all caught up. No excuse, but still. And then shout out to the homie Joe Morgan, who released the book, She Begat This, about Lauryn Hill's album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Me and my book club will be doing it in December, so I can't wait for that. So if you haven't got your copy, please do. Highly recommended. She is the one who wrote the phenomenal When Chicken Heads Come Home to Roost about her hip-hop feminism. Word is born. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Party people. Episode 51 of Where My Killer Tape At. Again, if you want to continue the conversation, use the hashtag Where My Killer Tape At. Killer spelled Killa. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, and yes, you could DM me. You could hit me up on my regular Twitter account, at DanTresOmi, DanTresOmi. Or you can go to the official podcast Twitter account, at Omi's Podcast, OMIS Podcast. And if you want to get me for some bookings, I can do workshops on capoeira and breakdancing, what we call b-boying. I could talk about intersectionality, black male feminism, social justice, and hip-hop culture. You can hit me on my Gmail, DanTresOmi@gmail.com, DanTresOmi. In the subject column, please put bookings, and let's talk negotiations. Word is born. And other than that, love y'all. I appreciate y'all. This is episode 51. Man, we got a lot more to go and a lot more to cover. Peace.